And just like that, we're back again, Kam G.
What
But
up? What up?
today's a special one. It's one of those Friday episodes. Not really an episode since this is a live show, but a Friday live stream where we have a special guest. Kam G, can you do the honors of introducing our special guest?
All right, man. We got my man Cyrus Titwell from the Brave Boxing Club in Farmers Branch, Texas, which is just outside of Dallas. Hello, Cyrus. Thank you for joining us.
Hey man, thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here. I'm excited, just talk a little bit about what I'm doing and obviously talk about the fights that we had last week because there were some good ones for sure. So, thanks for having
Right, right, right. So I met Cyrus just walking into his gym one day, and he is a boxing purist like myself. And we just hit it off, and I do some training over there sometimes. And Cyrus also is a promoter
me. Yep.
of Victory Boxing League. So was going to get Cyrus to talk a little bit about his how he even got into boxing, and then we'll move on to the promotion. So yeah, so tell us a little bit about how you even got into the boxing, the gym, and then we'll get on to your how you're promoting these fights.
Sure, absolutely. I've been basically training people now for 15 years, not boxing training, but just general fitness training for that amount of time. Loved it. Always just love helping people strive to just be better, to work on areas where they're weak and improve, whether it's in their flexibility or coordination or any number of other different things. So it's always been really exciting for me. I get a lot of enjoyment from seeing other people improve themselves. I get satisfaction from that. And that's something that I realized pretty early on. I've been
Mm,
wanting to open a gym for about that same amount of time. So when I started boxing, I found this to be infinitely more interesting than just pure fitness because now we have a actual skill set, something that people
mm,
can attach themselves to and focus on rather than focusing on getting in shape. I love
right.
the sport, the excitement of it, and getting better at it, learning about the history of it, understanding and unpacking all of the different aspects of the sport is something that you can really sink your teeth into. And you can learn from the history of it,
Mm,
not just from what you see on TV and on YouTube, but when you're in the boxing gyms, you can talk to the OGs, you can talk to the other fighters, and you can learn a
right.
huge amount from them. So it's just for me, it's just been a tremendous way just to connect with my community, to feel a sense of belonging. Boxing gyms are very social, as you know. We're always talking and having a good time and hanging out and working out. It's just been a great time for me. And so when I was in Florida, I got a chance to learn how to box, and that was a Puerto Rican gym. And I just had so many questions just about how they move and how they do things,
Mm,
and about what's the difference between what they're doing and what I'm doing. And that interest in trying to make those adjustments really spurred me to try to get better as fast as I could. I was still doing PT training. And so I was, on the job trying to figure out how to do it with the other guys I was working with and training with and having a good time with. And getting better, but still seeing that I couldn't explain why what I was doing and so what else was doing was different, help
mm,
figure out those answers explicitly. So I'm the kind of coach that really focuses on how to explain the different mechanics of boxing from an explicit standpoint rather than just doing it through repetition, right? My goal is for you to get one good rep, to be able to do it slowly, correctly, and then
mm,
repeat it and understand all the conditions required to make this move happen in this fashion, and understanding that doing it slightly different gets a different result. So, just being able to work from that standpoint has been great for me. There's so many fights that you can watch throughout history and learn just so
mm,
much. And there's just so many people that I can credit just my knowledge and interest in. When I moved here to Texas, I did some more training. Spoke with a lot of different people, and I had a great opportunity to finally start opening a gym. So
mm,
Brave Boxing Club, which started there in Florida, as just a club and not even just really a gym because we were training outside, and brought that here to Texas and did the same thing just to see if people were interested in it and interested in my approach. Because my
mm,
goal was to actually approach people that didn't box, approach people that had no background in it. And the goal was to see, can I teach people that don't know how to box, and can I give them a very technique heavy class? Not something that's more centered around what they do at title or at like a
mm,
video gym, which is great. It's very cardio heavy, it's very intense, but something slower and more methodical. And that's what I focused on. And it was very cool to see how good you can get in a short period of time when you lower the intensity but you really focus purely on technique. When you focus purely,
Right.
you get everything dialed in and perfect. And that's what we did. It was great. It was a lot of fun. Um, just took the leap of faith, after a certain period of time with me and my wife, and we decided to just open the gym and give it a try. And we've been at it now for 18 months. Over 100 members, and along the way, just working with fighters. And because of my approach from first basis and first principles about the stance, about movement, understanding
Mhm.
how those things come together and how different systems work together, has made me a very good boxing coach for professionals and for amateurs. I can
Mhm.
fill in very clearly now with pros where they have issues. They tell me,
Mm.
I want to be able to keep this guy off of me. My punches are fast and strong, but why is he still able to continue to come forward? I can then
Mhm.
Mhm.
make those adjustments in their style and in their approach to get what they're looking for, and then explain the trade-offs behind each one.
Mhm.
Because too often people try to, make it like a video game character where you say, okay, I want the speed and power of Mike Tyson, and I want the defense of Muhammad Ali with the head movement, and then I want Sugar Ray Leonard's flurries and everything. But a lot of what they do has to do with who they are as a person, but then also
Right.
how they stand,
Mhm.
have their mechanics. And a lot of people have to really figure out if they have those mechanics and have that ability to do those things. So, boxing's a skill. Those things can be learned. And even if it doesn't necessarily fit with your skill set, you can still understand it and learn how to do it. So that way you can even better fight it. Because understanding is the first step to be able to game plan against things.
Right, right. So we talk about being advocates of the sport and bringing that boxing culture to Dallas. Like how, like what did you notice coming? Being a transplant to the city and bringing boxing into the community and seeing how it's blossomed in your 18 months owning the gym.
Sure. So for me, the biggest surprise was the fact that Dallas isn't a boxing city as it currently exists.
Mhm.
We're very much so interested in a lot of different sports, but with all these kids playing football and everything in high school, they're not making the transfer over to boxing. We don't have
Mhm.
nearly as many gyms as I thought we would have, or as many coaches. And at the end of the day, not nearly as many fights as I thought we should have. So when I'm running my gym and operating it, initially, I was just planning on hopping on other people's cards. But
Mm.
with my time, just seeing how difficult it was to get a fight and find a fight that was fair, not an A side, B side fight, but a true 50-50 fight. One where both guys have a reasonable chance of walking in and winning, where both guys have a little anxiety about the fight and they're not sure about how it's going to go and they got to train. Those are the things that really interested me, but it was harder
Mhm.
to find those. And so for me, I, through, a lot of conversations with other people, other coaches in the gym and members and fighters, they were just telling me about their issues and me seeing them myself. We decided as a group, just to take that next step and add the promotion wing to Brave Boxing. And I needed to separate it out because I was looking for 50-50 fights. And a lot of that,
Mhm.
that I have to build up a reputation that I will call things straight, that I will put my fighters in danger, that I will let them
Mhm.
lose if they were not the better fighter. If I call it
Mhm.
Brave Boxing Promotions, everyone's going to think it's just for people at my gym. If I call
Right.
it simple promotions, people will think that it's serving me. But the goal of victory is to make boxing the premier sport here in Dallas, just like it
Mm.
can be in Philly, just like it can be in a place like California and New York, and obviously Vegas. My goal is to bring all of that energy and excitement and transplant it here in this city. And I think it's definitely a possibility as long as we create the funnel, right? At the top, we have pro fighters. At the very lowest level, there are those debut guys. We need to get more guys in the funnel at the
Mhm.
debut level, so that way they can start getting guys that are 5-5, 3-3, and they can continue to fight each other and give those debut guys more opportunities. And then at the same time, let's say you start moving into a place where you're 10-0. You had
Mhm.
to fight someone to get to 10-0. It's built upon
Mhm.
other people in the system. And so certain weight classes that just aren't healthy right now because there's not enough people in the system. Not enough of those guys left amateurs and went pro because they saw there were no fights, which means that we need to, first of all, attract people to get into boxing at the pro level and then start doing more amateur tournaments, which is the next step, and then getting more people in the gym. which means that we also have to create a system that makes it easier for more gyms to start. So we need to generate the demand on the fighter side and on the fan side. And that's a big part of why I opened the gym and a big part of why I run the promotions the way I do.
So
Thank you. Oh, sorry.
go ahead, Strap.
Now I was gonna say, first of all, thank you, Cyrus, for joining. Who's fighting? Uh, it, there are a few things that you said that sparked an idea in my mind. But before I say them, I want to welcome our guest host, Iggy. He's stepping in for our guy who's never replaced again. Our guy LT. Yeah, LT is somewhere in Florida, making his way back to Texas, but Iggy is a fight fan aficionado. He's one of those guys that sits and watches fights all week long, and he's always buzzing me about my takes. So I said, okay, you buzzing me about my takes, then let me give you the hot chair. Come share your views, and we'll put it out there for everyone to see. So you could feel what it's like to be inside the frying pan and putting your opinions out there. But back to you, Cyrus. You said you've been this entrepreneur in this space of fitness and the boxing gym for 18 months.
For sure.
How is that process? How is it? Because you already have the grassroots, you have the people that you're training. How do you integrate, even start having pros believe in you for that part?
You have to believe you're that guy, number one, right? I recognize that it's unusual, and this is something that most people couldn't do. You have to really believe and know what you're talking about. And a big part of why I believe in myself is that the things I do, I can get totally new people to do. I can get new people to do concepts that are well above their skill level, or what should be considered above their skill level. That's what helped me build the confidence to know that I can train other people to do these things. I watch on average 20 fights a week. That's not including the fights that are live and active, right? If you've been to my gym, you'll see those fights happening all the time. If you see the gym, I'll even show you guys, right? You look at the posters that I have, it's an old approach to boxing, right? I don't have a bunch of random posters all around of newer fights and newer fighters, right? I'm obsessed with the throwbacks. I'm obsessed with the history of boxing. And so I'm the kind of person that's always looking to learn new things. I'm the kind of person that's always trying to grow my approach and understanding, but it all starts from a stable foundation and understanding how your feet are set and how that affects how you box. And really, that comes from the knees and that comes from the feet. Understanding how to position yourself to get the kind of effect you want is important, because there's different modes of boxing depending on how you're standing. And being able to explain it from that foundation makes it easier for me to create a method for other people to understand what I'm saying. So regardless of what kind of gym you're coming from, you first have to learn that foundational stuff. And once we have a layer of understanding of what I'm trying to say, even if you know how to box, because that can happen, once we're talking about it in the same way, then I can get very specific about the things that you can adjust. And suddenly now your right hand can come out a little different than what you think it should. You can start making adjustments on the fly because now you're thinking about it in very systematic, compartmentalized ways. And don't get it twisted. I'm the kind of guy that loves knockouts, specifically to the body. That's my favorite thing in the world. I can't stand watching fights go to decision. That's my least favorite thing. I tell all my fighters that we got to go hurt the guy that we're going to fight. That's my personality, right? So I'm very technical, but it's technical to knock you out. That's my goal. That's my passion. That's what I want to see. And that's what I really love, right? I'm not the kind of person that's just going to force the guys to headhunt and try to make it flashy. I want to knock the person out, not just because we were stronger or faster, but because we were better than them at boxing, right? With technique, with skill, with timing, with rhythm, we're going to hurt them. And we have to make sure that all of that dials in perfectly to have it work the way it does. And so all the other experience I have training people also comes into play, right? So whether it's from the bodybuilding perspective, the calisthenics perspective, the track and field perspective, wrestling, huge, right? I'm huge on wrestling and bringing that into the game. So understanding how to create leverage, understanding how to close the distance, understanding how to work the corner, work the ropes, all of that experience comes into play when it comes to how I coach people. So teaching them how to be holistic fighters, regardless of whether you're tall or short, muscular or not. I'm trying to help you get better in every aspect of the game. You know, I have fighters that are hyper athletic. My goal for them is to make them more predictable in terms of how they move, not taking away their flair, but making sure that they don't get too out of whack, making sure that when they turn that hand over, they knock the guy out instead of hurting them. Right? There's little things that everyone needs, right? If the guy's a strength-based fighter, helping him learn how to control himself and not just focus on power punching, but overall boxing, because his punch is already hurt. Why would you punch harder and force and mess up your footwork and mess up your rhythm just to get the same effect? With good technique, you can hurt a guy on accident. And then the hardest, speed guys that are hyper athletic and twitchy and they can jump out the gym. Speed guys are the hardest to train, in my opinion, because they have some, but many of them have great reflexes. They can rely on themselves physically, and they can often win fights up until a point. But what happens when now you need to rely on good boxing technique? What happens when you realize that some guys got the inside of your timing and now you can't adjust it because you can only go one speed? A lot of those really fast athletic guys, what ends up happening is become a one-trick pony.
Ben Whitaker.
That's the truth.
We're going to go on a tangent talking about Ben Whitaker.
And that's my goal, is to round out whatever kind of fighter I have, right? I have a fighter right now named Nathan Slabbers. I love this guy. He's got an anger issue like no one else I've seen. I mean, he turns up on nothing, and I love
Gotta channel it.
Sure. And I love that about him. He's a violent individual with how he approaches the game, and that excites me. I love that about him. And knowing that nature, it's how do I direct that? How do I make that better for him? So there's so many aspects to the game.
How many pro fighters you have right now that you're working with?
For this card that's coming up, I was supposed to have 4 fighting, but Nathan was not fighting for this one. So 3 fighting on this card. Last card I had 6. Officially debuting for our next card, I'll have another 2. So depending on the day and their level of focus, I can have anywhere from 6 up to about 9. And the goal is to continue to grow that camp and really get them all dialed in and focused and serious. So where now we can just go on a run, because I'm trying to do 4 cards a year. And as long as they're focused, they're fighting on the card. I'll find them a fight. They'll just be challenged and they'll get better.
So we got the next card you got coming up. First one was back in June. First card going into your second card. So you got October 26th in Irving, Texas. At Southern Junction. You having your second fight card. So I guess explain to us or talk to a little bit about us, like the whole process for you setting up these fights and what you've learned from that. And, you know, how can you avoid becoming one of those guys where, you know, we saw Eubanks at the press conference calling guys scumbags and have to retract? You know, how do you become the guy that's suing everybody?
So, you know, a big part of it for me is making sure I'm talking to people with the right hat. That's an important thing for myself. And I have to recognize the biases that I have and make sure that I'm talking to them as the right person. For example, my fighters, they're talking to the coach version of me. The people that aren't my fighters but are fighting on the card, I immediately have to flip my brain into promoter. And with that,
is there a conflict of loyalty? Let's say where those hats can be a little bit, they kind of bleed, if you know what I mean. Or overlap.
No, I can compartmentalize really well. And I ask just a very simple question. Which hat is talking here? And would the other hat say this? Or would the other hat act in this way? That's a very quick and easy test to make sure that I'm not taking advantage of people or I'm skewing and ruining myself in the short term or the long term. For example, in my last fight, you know, I went 2-4. I should have gotten 3-3, but, you know, things happen. On that card, you know, it was very competitive, and every fight, with the exception of the last one, was very entertaining. And I felt that people really enjoyed themselves. I'm willing and ready to put my fighters in danger because I trust in myself and I trust in them. I'm not putting them in fights that I think they're guaranteed to lose, but I want them to feel the anxiety to train more. That's always my goal. And a big commitment that I made to myself is that if I make a commitment to a fighter, regardless of whether they're my fighter or not, I'm going to try to uphold it as best I can. That's why.
So basically, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's why I scheduled the fights 4 months in advance, right?
Mm.
So October 26th is the upcoming card for Victory 2. And then February, I think it's 22nd, that last Saturday will be the next card after that for Victory 3. So I'm already looking for that. I'm already trying to put that in place. The goal is to build consistency so that way the fighters can start setting their schedule, the managers and other promoters can start setting their schedule, and then the fans can start setting their schedule. I'm trying to drive a line in the sand and say, this is when things are happening, how they're happening. And so the goal is to be transparent. The goal is to put my cards on the table. And when I'm being biased, try to say it out loud. You know, they have the Muhammad Ali Act where they say that you can't be someone's manager and promoter. And that's great. That's fantastic. And when I'm promoting people, you know, I treat them extremely well because I recognize that they had to go through hell to get here. It's not just the fight, it's everything else that's surrounding the fight. It's difficult. If it was just training, it would be easy. Many of these guys are not full-time fighters. Many of them come from, you know, impoverished backgrounds, and I respect that. And it's important for myself that I make sure I don't put them in a bad situation. You know, you'll hear about situations where they'll strand these fighters out in some other state far away from home, and they don't got money to get home, and they'll put them in some busted up motel where there's no good food around, and just sort of have them try to survive out there. And they'll bait and switch, say you're going to go fight one guy. Oh, last minute, you're going to go fight this other guy instead. And if you don't fight, you're not getting paid. And how are you going to get home? That's terrible. My goal is to never do that kind of stuff. My goal is for it to be like, man, you know, Victory was a great time. I really like that Cyrus guy. You know, what's called win, lose, or draw. He treated me well. Win, lose, or draw. He was upfront and professional about what he wanted and what he expected. Right? I'm trying to make everything across the line up to standard from the way I'm promoting the fights, advertising them on Instagram and Facebook, to the way I'm communicating with the fighters, making sure that I give them a chance to ask questions. Some of them really appreciate that and asking for their input and asking me and saying, hey, do you want to take photos? Some of them have upside down records and never got a chance to really do professional photos. And giving them the opportunity makes them feel like it's a big deal, makes them feel like their fight's a big fight. And I think it is. And, you know, pushing for as many local fights to happen as possible. Why travel when you don't need to? Right? We're Dallas. We're the big city. Why do we got to go other places? They should come here.
Right. That's why it's a really big thing what Cyrus is doing. I'll let you get to it, Strap, because the fight culture really isn't here like that. It is growing, and Cyrus is a part of that renaissance of boxing that we're experiencing here. So what he's doing is extremely important for this area. So just got to commend you on doing that, taking those steps and being a stand-up, because so many guys fall out of this sport, and it hurts the sport when we have people that are doing dirty business and not treating people with the utmost respect. These guys go out here and put their bodies on the line for our entertainment and our appreciation for the sport. So we need people on the business side of it that have that same respect that the opponents should share for each other. So I always got to commend Cyrus for coming in and doing that. And this is my hometown, and to see somebody that's not from here doing that is huge. So, but yeah, man,
I'm uniquely qualified to do these kinds of things because I do own a gym, which is cool already. But then I do have a business degree. You know, I went to school for this, and I had a whole professional career before this. So it's not as if I'm just someone that's been training, if that makes sense. You know, I have a strong background, a strong boxing background, and then business as well. So for me, you know, putting together all those different hobbies and interests, just to put it together for this kind of thing is great for me. You know, it makes it easier. I already have a lot of the equipment. I already have a lot of the know-how. And it's just about building goodwill and building my reputation, right? I think goodwill is something that can go a long way. And the more that I have, the more I can start to really lean on people and ask them to go further out with me. Lean on them and ask them to, you know, try more and do more than they otherwise would. I think that's important. Without that, so many things just cannot exist. You can't force certain things to happen. You can't force the boxing culture to really come alive if people are looking over their shoulder and always wondering when they're going to get snaked.
So, first of all, let me give you a proper salute to you doing this. I could tell from just listening to you, this is your passion project,
I love
as
it.
an artist would say. This is passion more than anything. And yeah, I have a two-part question just about the two hats that you wear. Right, I will start off with the trainer, mentor, person. Right, the trainer. Growing up, we've seen all legendary trainers from Emmanuel Stewart to yeah, to Costamado to his apprentice Teddy Atlas and so on and so forth. And you talked about one of your fighters that had the temper issues, and you hear stories of Costamado saying, Mike Tyson, like fire, fire, fire. We all love fire. You could use fire to cook food, or you could use fire to arson. So like he's like you need fire. You just have to mold that fire to make it do what you want it to do, right?
Mhm.
As a trainer, how much of emotional intelligence, like I'll tell you this, Customado may not work in this generation of, of fighters, right? It's different generations. You can't
Yeah.
talk to them a certain type of way. You have to be kind of like a psychologist. You have to know what's happening at home. How is the wife? How is, or if they're not even, if they're younger and they're going into the fight, like, how can I, how can I create this psychological safety where I'm next to you in the ringside and you trust that I have your life. I can, I'll protect you if I see things going bad, or I'll give you the best advice to get the win. How much of just not the physical aspect of understanding what happens inside the ring, but also the psychological, um, not to be like a wild animal tamer, like a Costamado, but the psychological game as a trainer, how much does it play a role? And then my second part is, as a promoter, your second hat, when do you sleep? Because because like, let's say your trainers is a full-time job, because now you're a manager, kind of low key, because you're checking on your fighters. Some trainers are like nutritionists, because I know Freddie Roach is like serious about his fighters nutrition and day-to-day scheduling and what they're gonna do, because you're writing a schedule, you're working. I don't know if they're using Excel sheets. I don't know what the trainers are using. And then now promotion is another full-time job. Now you have to look for venue, you have to look for sponsors, you have to look for second part question, when do you sleep? But I'll let you handle those two hats questions.
Okay, so let's address the psychological portion of this first. It's very simple. I have to understand the person that I'm dealing with in order to make sure I'm applying the right tools and techniques to make them better. For example, two guys. Both guys are aggressive. Both guys want to hurt people. The real question is why? Some people want to hurt people not because they're angry, but they could even be a happy, nice guy. They just enjoy fighting. Other group of people, they want to hurt people because they have deep psychological issues that they're working through. And they need severe and very closely monitored attention and coaching in order to make sure that they stay on the straight and narrow. I say this pretty much every time I see Cam, and he probably gets annoyed about it. Boxing is such a physical sport that it brings everything out to the surface. Whoever you are on the inside will come out, for better or for worse. You will have to address it, unless you're cherry picking and skating by, and you're just getting paid a bunch of money to fight nobodies, and you're just fighting well below your level. If you're pushing yourself like you ought to, boxing will bring who you are to the surface, and you got to deal with that and contend with it. That's why I cannot train everyone, not because of the technical aspect, but because of the psychological aspect and makeup, both when it comes to who they are and their environment. Some people's environment is so bad, I can't take them on with good conscience. There's a big part. I don't need their money. I don't need to snake them in order to make my living, because the main focus of my gym is the retail client. That was very important for me to be able to train the fighters properly, which means that if I need to say no to someone, I can do that. Which means that if I need them to take a step back and not take this fight, I can afford to do that. That's a big part of me divorcing myself from them financially. Same thing with with the promotion side, right? I needed to make sure that all those guardrails are in place so that way I can act in the way that I need to. I say all that to say this. Every person gets pushed and prodded in a different direction. And when pressure comes, they respond differently, both in the fight and in real life. Some people in a fight, when they start to feel pressure, they turn up. They start throwing theirs. Other people, when they start to feel the pressure, they're going to start to move their head, move their feet, and try to figure a way out. Other people, they'll look for a way out and start to fold. They'll start to look for a way to escape and give up once things start going their way.
And it's flip over the ropes.
It's important for me to
understand the exact same thing.
No, and that gets to my point.
Yeah.
Some people, and I say this, and I mean this when I say it, some people are bullies when they fight. It's the same thing with the showboating fighter, the guy that's trying to look cool. They need specific conditions of the fight in order for them to feel comfortable. When the fight gets gritty, it gets nasty, when it turns into something that they don't want it, when they're not in full control, bullies and showboaters, if they're not real fighters on the inside, start to fold. That deep insecurity and that lack of confidence in themselves can lead to them giving up the fight. Their skill set may allow for them to win the fight. They may have all the tangibles needed, but some people don't want to be in competitive fights. Some people only know how to be in ass whoopings, right? Where they're just slaughtering the other person and getting 100% of what they want. It's about the mental approach to how you go about it. And those are the hardest people for me to coach because they want everything they do to work immediately. Sometimes you got to desensitize that guy first, get him off of his game, right? Sometimes you have to work on advancement, doing what you want to do. And sometimes you got to work on denial, taking away what he wants to do. Those are not the same thing. And if you're a bully, you're just trying to go whip his ass. It's very difficult to teach that guy how to do denial strategies because that requires to box. That requires to admit that he's, a live dog in the game and that you actually have to make adjustments. Same thing with the showboater. They're trying to look cool. They're trying to play to the crowd. If they're too much of that, they create their own conditions that make it harder for them to go fight the way they need to fight. And what does that mean at the end of the day? If it doesn't make them look cool and make it look like it was effortless, they can't go and do it. And that puts a huge ceiling on your skill set. Because sometimes you got to just go get it out the mud and just make it happen. Sometimes you got to win ugly. Sometimes you got to actually make the fight a little boring for a second in order to take something away from someone, in order to let them know that you're not going to let them do that. Sometimes it's not always effortless. Sometimes you got to take one to give one.
And that's what I think we talked about on the show here and there about the best fighting the best and the Floyd Mayweather effect of protecting the O, right? Some guys are fearful, or promotion companies are fearful of guys taking risky fights. But as fans of the sport, we want to see those challenging fights so we can really see who this guy really is.
We need to find out. And that's why you care about boxing. It's not just the fight. It's about finding out why you fight, seeing what issues you struggle with, seeing what you had to overcome to even get here. We want to care about the person we're watching. And then seeing them overcome, seeing them adapt, seeing them change, seeing them make adjustments. All of that is needed. Why do you think we like Rocky 1 so much? There's barely any fighting in that movie. It's a love story.
Right.
Yeah, his love story. Yeah, absolutely.
It's a story about Rocky and his life and who he is. That's what promoting is. A big part of promoting is getting people to care about your fighter. Fanboys. They love their fighter so much that they are just happy to see him talk.
Yeah.
Facts.
Yeah. So, but it seems like we're trying to go through a renaissance in the culture of supporting these guys, win, loss, or draw. If you're gonna respect the sport, you're gonna show up, make weight, give us great fights. Just because you lose doesn't mean we stop supporting you.
Yes.
And honestly, it depends. It also depends how you lose.
Yes.
Absolutely. But that's why I said it's if you're fighting competitively, you're giving your all. Sometimes guys are just better than you on that night. But if you didn't just lay down, then as a fan of the sport, I'm going to watch your next fight. That's why we respect on this show. We really give flowers to Caleb Plant.
Caleb Plant. That's what I was gonna say.
No,
Caleb Plant. He never
There's
ducks the
great.
smoke.
Exactly.
That's
Makes
exactly
adjustments
right.
in real time. Every time he makes adjustments in real time, he could struggle a little bit, but he makes an adjustment. And I
That
like him.
McCumbee fight he just had, that was an epic fight. That was one of my favorite fights for him. I didn't even know.
Fight.
I didn't even know, dude. I didn't know McCumbee. I didn't know McCumbee.
Now we fans.
Now I'm a fan of McCumbee too.
Yes,
he's on the card.
That's boxing great.
He's on the card. We have to check that for another episode, but he's on the card coming up, so we'll be watching.
I'll watch another one of his fights after seeing that. But
Absolutely.
even thinking about this, Tim Tszyu, his fight that he had earlier this year, we got his head busted open.
Tim Tszyu, that was who?
He's fighting tomorrow. He fought Fundora.
That was my favorite fight this year, pretty much. I still talk about that because that was such a high ethics thing to do. He was beating Fundora left and right till he got his head broken.
Yep.
And he still thugged it out the rest of the fight. It was great. That right there just taught me so much about his character, right? You know, I watch Showbiz the Adult all the time, and he calls him Himzu. I gotta say the same thing, right? He's Himzu now after that.
Yeah.
Showbiz is funny.
I'm now a huge fan of him now.
Yeah. And we're gonna support it. We just have to, so you know, guys like us and people that we know continue to support these guys, you know, shout their name from the mountaintops so that way that these guys that are so focused on protecting they get phased out. You can go undefeated, it's possible, but more than likely, a lot of my favorite fighters all time they lost. They lost. Marvin Hagler, Sugar Ray Robinson, Pernell Whitaker. You know what I'm saying? Different era.
They had good redemption fights too.
Yes,
Roberto Duran, all of them, they got their butt kicked, and they came back on some I'm back on the whole revenge tour. So I like
they just wanted to fight. They didn't care losses or they just wanted to fight. Now I feel like
the other half of it though.
With the social media, I feel like like some of these fighters are scared. Hey, as soon as I get that what are they gonna say? I'm nothing, I was a hype job, it's the hype job. No, every loss you get, it's a hype job. I'm like, you can't be a hype job just losing the first fight, man. Like, you gotta fight. Like,
hey, Bernard Hopkins. Bernard Hopkins lost his first fight.
And people don't even know that. People don't even know that he lost his first fight.
Yeah.
Hey, we remember him. We know how good he was.
That's my favorite reference point.
Yeah. I mean, look at Dre, your fighter, Cam. He's made tremendous improvements and came back and knocked that guy out first round. Was it 2 weeks ago?
In his hometown. In his hometown.
Yeah.
He knocked him out in his hometown.
Yeah.
And he was
same deal. He lost to Austin Dulworth, and it was a good fight, but he wasn't himself just due to outside circumstances that happened the day of. He's made the most progress this camp. He was back in the gym the day after the fight.
Yeah.
I opened up the gym at 9, and he was already sitting there at the doorway like, "Hey, coach, you ready?" I'm like, "Brother, you just fought yesterday, man. What you doing?" He's like, "Nah, we back at it.
We got to get to it."
He's like, "Let me run that fight back immediately." I'm like, "Brother, it hasn't even been 12 hours." He's ready.
But in the gym, though, but that's the type of guys we need in the sport, and we got to support. So it's a blessing that he's a part of your gym, and he got somebody that's gonna, go with him. So
he's made tremendous progress. He broke one of my bags off of my rack the other day. Punched it, knocked it clear off the back, like in Captain America. He was on that kind of thing. It was a new one too. It's not like it was worn out.
I love it. Yeah, Cyrus, he got top line equipment over there. So that man's over there hurting stuff. He's knocking stuff off the wall. But
I'm excited.
But I know. Is it to talk about being great and everything? I don't know, Strap, you wanted to. I know we had a fight that just happened this past weekend. Speaking of guys daring to be great and risking the O. What you guys think of this Beterbiev and Bivol fight? I mean, I'll let our guests go first. I'm gonna let Cyrus and Iggy go.
Bro, that was a 10 out of 10 fight, man. That's what I thought Spence and Crawford was gonna look like, man. Something like that. That was such a good fight. I mean, it was so good. We thought the fight was, going too fast. We were looking at the time in the rounds. We're like, it's round 8 already. What?
Right.
The fight was so good. I was so impressed with how good Bivol did. And when he got hurt, he was turning up and fighting back. And I learned so much about who he is as a person. When the pressure came, it was amazing. And I learned so much about how good Beterbiev is in that fight. There's so many good things to say about it. I think they got it right. I tried to score that one live, and I scored it accordingly. So, I saw Beterbiev winning that fight. People that say he didn't win, that's cool. I don't think it was a robbery. I just need to see it a second time, because fights like that, we need to run it back for sure. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, definitely. Honestly, I would say it was a good fight. Strap knows, from day one, I've always been a Beterbiev guy. That has always been my guy. Like, most people talk about, he's just a hot, one-time hard puncher. But I always looked at Beterbiev's fight as like, no, it's just not his hard hitting. He is really skilled.
Yes.
People had to. This fight actually, and honestly, to me, I feel, coming from that surgery, that injury, right? I don't even think Beterbiev was, at 100%. That's why I honestly want them to run it back, because I believe, because I had to watch the fight, and I'm not gonna lie, man, he's my guy. But the very first time watching that fight, I really thought Bivol, won the fight, because I feel like Bivol had the more clean punches. But when I watched it again, it's the pressure Beterbiev, put on Bivol, right?
Yeah.
And towards, and honestly, the championship rounds, that's where, to me, Beterbiev took it.
Yeah.
And that's why, I squatted for him. But I would like them to run it again. And I want to see him better after that injury, because I kind of feel like, yes, he had that surgery, and I feel like they kind of rushed him to fight that fight. That's why I want to see it again when I believe he's 100%. So, yes, I don't mind the rematch, man.
Rematch. I think we all unanimous there.
The only problem is the sanction bodies, man. Because I just had the IBF the belt.
Yeah.
I'm like,
already, we can't have no fun out here.
He took his chain.
They just trying to collect their money. I'm like, come on.
Give me that.
Yeah. That's a whole nother thing when it comes to these, especially the IBF. But I don't know what you think.
They're doing a lot of
they did Usyk too.
Yeah, that's how
Canelo
who fought for that belt at the heavyweight, but that's how that
Daniel Dubois.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So that's how that belt became available. So it's a catch-22, because it gave us a high level, high energy, large implications style of fight, but we didn't want to see the undisputed be broken. We want to see the undisputed champion. You want to see him get beat or retain it. How great can you be?
How long can you hold it?
Exactly. As long as you want, let's see, you get in the ring and figure it out. But going to the fight, like what you said, Iggy, about his being healthy, I haven't been able to watch it the full time, the second time through, but I saw he was not able. The lateral movement really wasn't there for Beterbiev. And I'm
like round 8, 9.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, like, I feel like he's capable of it, but maybe that's just something that hasn't came back yet. He is 39 years old, but we saw a fresh guy at the end of the fight. He was ready to go. Like, Cyrus, maybe like the old school guys, those guys on your wall were fighting 15-round fights.
Yeah.
Beterbiev and Bivol, let me give him his credit too. Those guys are game for 15 rounds. Like it's nothing. But that's the one thing I would want to see in a rematch is does Beterbiev have better lateral movement? Does the age factor? And does Bivol continue to stay in a high guard? Because when it comes to judging, close rounds go to the aggressor.
Yeah.
A lot of the times, even with you blocking punches in your high guard on the glove. So I love the fight. I'm a huge fan of both of these fighters. Can't wait for the rematch, man. Like we need more of it. The best fighting the best. The sport is better for it, man. We gotta have it.
I agree.
Yeah,
and early cards, more early cards.
Yeah, so yeah, I could, those late night fights, man. I'd be tired, but
man,
well, I'm more offended when I paid $90 and the fight was terrible.
Right?
Come on now,
Right. We're trying to hang out and have a good time, and then the fight's terrible, and I spent all that money, and it's 1 o'clock, and I got the gym.
Yeah.
like 5 hours.
Hey, Riyadh Seasons needs to do something about that pay-per-view with pricing. But anyways,
They dropped it to like 20.
they dropped it. Yeah,
They dropped it to 20. They dropped it to 20. So you know that's pretty. You know that's getting better.
Hey, we're making steps. We're making steps.
My recap. You guys pretty much summed everything. I for one, I was expecting this fight to go to Bivol from first of all the aspect of age. Secondly, the aspect of how recovered is he from surgery, and how is he prepared? How was that fight camp leading up to the fight? Right? Yeah, everything's got a little spicy about Bivol's personal life, whatever. But I know that means nothing, and I don't know what that means inside boxing ring. But people are just coming up with, it's good for promotion, coming up with storylines and stuff, because really and truly, these two are just cyborgs. They really don't have stories. Like, you just want to see them fight. Really and truly, this was a pure fight. You don't need any storyline.
Because he's a handsome man, right? That's enough right there. Plus, he moves well, right? That's enough right there to be like, you know what?
Right. I already knew it's going to be good combination fighting from Bivol. Very good with that jab, surgical with that jab. He knows, and he does that early. He's always a good early round fighter. He did it Canelo and neutralized Canelo with fighting him at the distance that he wanted to fight Canelo. So I know Bivol's style. But also, we all know Beterbiev is one of those that steps on that gas. All action. What he did to Anthony Yardy. Ooh.
That was a good fight.
To me, I think the best fight was Calm Smith.
Yeah. So already in that fight, I was expecting somebody to get knocked out, to be honest. But first, let me give Bivol his props. He broke that 100% knockout rate. When we got to around round 9, I was scared for Beterbiev because you knock out mostly people that knock out people their whole career, and don't hardly ever see the 12th round. Usually I worry, especially if you're older and you don't have that tank in you. You don't have that, that endurance and that stamina to go those farther championship rounds, right?
Right.
But man, I was surprised how he was just getting stronger. And I won't lie to you, maybe I saw it wrong. I think he hurt Bivol around round 10, and I saw Bivol kind of low key on his bike.
Round 9, he got
he was on his bike.
And 11, 12, he was running.
I was Bivol hurt. I remember the group chat. I put a message in the group. I think Bivol was hurt. I think he's hurt, and he's just such a tough guy. Them Dagestani Russians, they don't quit. Like, they don't have that quit in them, right? Whether they're hurt, they're going on their sword, right?
Guys.
Oh, say that again. Sorry.
Dagestan fighters, man.
Oh, they tough guys. So
I love it, man.
Really and truly, that was a match made in heaven. Low key, it reminded me of the first Triple G versus Canelo. I was just stuck on that first Triple G. I could not blink, because these two dudes gave us exactly what we wanted. And from my first feel of when they read the scorecard, that's how I felt with the first Triple G and Canelo. I'm like, how is this a draw? How is this, so it was very controversial from that.
The 116, 112. That was
very controversial.
If they made the 11th round a 10-8 round, I can see that. Because it was getting to that point in the 11th round, in my opinion, where he just wasn't firing back enough.
Yeah.
That's the only way I could see that.
But fellas, let me hit you with a curveball. And this is just boxing Twitter talking. They really were anticipating for Bivol. I mean, boxing Twitter was anticipating for Bivol so we could see that Canelo Bivol fight. Do you think that fight is still in the works after this little spanner to the system by Beterbiev? Or we don't want to see Canelo fight Bivol again?
I'll watch it. I mean,
I
don't care about else.
All right.
I'm watching, but I didn't see enough that made me feel like, a rematch. I want to see that again. He was on his back foot the entire fight, and we never seen him on his back foot the entire fight with no real answer.
But wait,
we gotta remember. I think Canelo wants his redemption because he keeps on.
He was injured. He wasn't really, the Canelo, because he had to do surgery first, right? And one thing about Canelo, I've noticed that if there's one person who knows how to adjust, and that's why he wanted that rematch. And then Bivol was like, let's take it down to 168. Canelo was like, hey, the rules were we rematch at 175.
Why is that fair?
Hmm?
Well, that's not
No,
fair,
no,
right? He fought for his belts. If you want to beat me, let me go after
Right.
you. I mean, that's
Right. He want to have his cake and eat it too.
right. I mean, I know Canelo's the man,
He is
but
the
come
man.
on, right? Like it can't
Nah,
be
go
in your favor all the time.
go
But
rematch at the 75. If you're gonna do the rematch,
Mhm.
I personally don't think he can pull it off. I just think there's weight classes for a reason, size and skill. You know, it's not happening. I saw on dream matchups about Beterbiev and Canelo. What would that fight look like? You know, styles make
Ooh.
fights. I'm like, I
I
don't
think that
know.
would be
I feel like it's stylistically there's gonna be more exchanges. That fight
Yep.
does not go 12.
Oh, it's gonna be
It's
fine.
not good.
I'd love to watch that.
Yes.
Yeah,
not good.
it's a dream. It's a dream matchup, but I
But
personally am not enthused to see a Canelo Bivol rematch. I'm
Remember,
all in on Beterbiev Bivol right now.
I think it's
remember
more of
when they were
Canelo's
saying
ego
Canelo could
cleaning
go all
that
the way up
blemish.
to cruiserweight and fight at one point. Remember?
Yeah, he was
Before
trying to
lost
fight.
Bivol.
He was trying. No, I think he beat Kovalev.
Yes.
And I think he was trying to go up to cruiser
Yeah, they were saying
to
that.
fight. Yeah, he was trying to fight. What's his name? I'm trying to remember his name. He was
But
trying to fight cruiserweight. Was it?
But it wasn't anybody that had that threat to like put him.
No. No. What name?
What the Congolese guy, the Congolese cruiserweight at that time that Canelo had to fight. I forgot his name.
Was it Badu Jack, something like that?
No, it's
No,
not
Badu Jack.
No, not
The
Badu
Congolese guy. He was from Congo. There was a cruiserweight champ from Congo. That recent he lost the belt.
He did.
I
He
forgot
did
his
kind
name.
of dug Badu. Badu was out there for a minute though.
Yeah.
If you want to throw out, we got like live fact check right here. You'll find out who that is.
I got it.
But I mean but while y'all looking at this does leave the window open for other fights though. I mean, you have other guys at that weight class that can have potential clashes based on this. If this rematch does not
Lunga
happen
Jr.
immediately,
I got it. It's Makabu.
Makabu.
Ilunga.
Yeah, Makabu from Congo. Yeah. But
and the
Canelo,
Congolese out here, man, they got fighters.
Yeah, I hearing Canelo speak at this podcast, that Bivol thing bothers him. He wants to revenge that and clean that little flaw in his record. He talks about Bivol. He talked about Bivol on Sway in the Morning. He talked about Bivol every stop. It's brought up, so he wants that fight. So we'll see if he gets it. Right now, he's doing his last tour. He's doing his what did Kobe have?
Bro, he was in Japan recently for
He's
the
doing
fight.
his thing. He's in the last days, the last part of his career. Now he gets to pick. I think that fight's gonna happen though. But anyway, moving on to Eubank Jr. And his TKO. Were you guys impressed with Eubank Jr.?
I mean,
layoff. He wasn't layoff for a year, right? He hadn't fought in a year.
Yeah, he had a long layoff.
Yeah, a long layoff.
So those two back-to-back fights with the same dude that he knocked him out the first time and he knocked out the guy the second time. What was his name? I forgot his name. The British.
He had to knock him out. He's looking for a title opportunity at some point. He even dropped Canelo's name in there at one point.
Are you seeing Conor Ben playing full court press? Conor Ben is at his neck, boy. Everywhere you is Conor Ben right there.
I want to see the fight personally, man. I mean, after that promotion, I really do want to.
Yes, after that
promotion, I'm back on again. All right, let's watch it.
That's all it takes. A little commotion.
Yeah.
But look, you expect him to win. He put him down early, put him down late.
Yeah.
He did what he's supposed to.
That's what we expect.
Yeah. The fight that was on all over Twitter. Mr. Whitaker versus Cameron.
Oh man.
Where do we start with this one?
Pressure bust pipes. Man, I was rushing home to get to watch this fight, and I get to the fight, I see him laying on the floor. I'm like, oh, what happened? And then you see the replay, and I was
What
talking to
exactly?
him about big ups, and I'm thinking we got another drunken master, a showman, but my man chose the way out. He said that I think it was officially ruled an ankle injury.
Yeah,
Hmm?
that's
I
what
don't know.
yeah, that's what they
Come
say.
on.
But initially they thought it was his neck or some stuff
His
that was.
back, his
Oh
back.
man. Ah man, right here. Spinal.
Yeah,
Spinal.
yeah.
He was better off saying that, man. Like, come on, we gotta. We might. I don't know, y'all. We might not talk about him on the show no more. We can't have that.
Yeah.
No, it's not like he was fighting, but just like what Sarah said, when you finally take that next level of competition, because he wasn't really fighting his fight. He was from round one. I was like, yo, Ben doesn't fight like this. He didn't fight his fight that all fight.
Yeah.
But the fact that it went to the scorecard and it was ruled a draw,
Yeah.
he probably didn't even realize that it was at a draw at that point to take that way out of the fight, man. Like that's where you go in that psychological battle we talked about earlier. It's just hopefully he regroups and gets in the ring and you fight. You're a fighter, you get in the ring, fight. We will respect the result if you're giving us a fight.
Sure.
Point,
And not
point
every,
blank, period.
look at Teofimo Lopez whenever he's fighting, someone
Mhm.
that can box really well, right?
Mhm.
Or he tries to go after someone. He struggles. And that's okay.
Mhm.
Not everyone's going to look great in every circumstance.
He'll get in that
Yeah,
ring
like,
though.
I think he needs to clean that smut off his jacket. He needs to do the DeBoer approach. When DeBoer took that, DeBoer was kind of had a that label that he's a quitter or whatever. He's only fought like 9 fights, so you could clean that, you could wash that stench off you by give us a war. We don't want that finesse stuff. Okay, that was cool. You doing your best Roy Jones impression. That was cool. Give us a war. Win or loss, we'll respect you. That smut is off your jacket. Now let's start afresh.
Show us
Reintroduce us. Yeah, reintroduce us to yourself, because right now, like Cam said, we won't be talking about him again on this show until he gets his weight up a little bit.
Well, even if he does it again in another fight where he looks the exact same way he used to, now we know.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
The air of invincibility is gone. That's what I was saying earlier. With bullies and showmen, you need that air of invincibility. It doesn't work if they don't believe in themselves, when the other fighter doesn't believe in it themselves.
But Strap, to what you're saying, 9 fights in, some guys don't fight on that type of stage. Fighting on the stage that large, that early in his career. Me and Cyrus know guys that are at that level of fighting in their career, and they're nowhere near the type of exposure.
I did it somewhere in the South, man, doing the Chitlin circuit, trying to get their name.
Right. So there's levels to it. We got to see him have a learning experience on the time that a lot of fight fans don't get to experience that.
Yeah.
Because we don't see guys until they're well into their career, 15, 18, 20 fights. Yep. So if there's any defense of what happened, that'll be it. But I mean,
I was listening to one of the British pundits talking about him, and they said, "Hey, guys, forget that he has a pedigree. He's an Olympian. He has a storied amateur career too. So he's not a guy who came from nowhere.
Yeah.
He has documented. He has a progress chart that led to, yes, it's only 9 fights, but that's the same 9 fights that Anthony Joshua led to a Klitschko fight. So." Yeah. There's a little bit of a pedigree there. He's an Olympian and stuff that led to him being picked up by big promotions, and he was thought to be one of them ones of this generation. So I like him. I want him to pick it up. Go stay away from social media. I don't want to hear you rapping or whatever you've been doing. Stay away. Go rebrand, come back. And now we like Dubois. He had to rebrand too. His sister had to leave the camp. He had, Dubois did a rebrand. He showed us what he did with Big Baby Miller. He did a rebrand, so he needs to step away.
He had to go fight. He had to go fight. He had to go fight.
Now we know. He doesn't.
Now we know. Yeah.
When he's fighting.
Yeah. So we are going to pivot to fights that are about to, come to fruition. I don't know about this matchup here. And you guys are old fight fans, trainers, people that have been around to watch a lot of these fighters. What do you think about Tank versus Roach? December 14th.
It's a fight. Even on the lowest level, you have to understand how hard it is to make a fight happen.
Yeah.
You have to get so many parties involved and get them to agree that this should happen. Oh, man.
Yeah.
No, I get it. And when you're Tank Davis and you're that dangerous, you're going to get ducked by half of the guys, right? Half of the guys that fight you, people won't accept anyway. There's only so many guys you can fight in the first place. And if your management and team aren't in agreement, if the sanctioning bodies aren't going to allow it in the way they want, if the networks aren't in agreement, it's hard. Roach is a safe fight that meets the minimum requirements for him to get what he needs done. Happens.
And on that same card, is Benavidez going to be fighting on that same card?
Yeah, he's fighting on the same card.
Yep. So
I thought they were fighting on the same card. His card.
Yeah, initially, but then I heard they split it out. I could be wrong, but
I honestly I think Tank. If Tank said Tank didn't even mind being, the co.
Yeah. So
sure.
I'm. This is what really has my attention. Benavidez versus Morrell. That's what really got my attention on that.
This is gonna be a good.
I don't know, man. I think watching Morrell, the last fight in Vegas, and Crawford. I don't know, because I don't want to hear the excuse of who was the fault, he's not ready for Benavidez, because they've been hyping up for that fight, but I don't feel like Morrell is, ready for Benavidez. Like, I don't mind it, it's going to be, but, after the fight, I don't want to hear people saying, who was the fault, because that's what they always say, who was the fault. He wasn't ready.
So you're not saying it's too early? You're not saying it's too early for Morrell?
I feel it's too early for Morrell. I feel it's too early.
Okay.
Sometimes we need to just let the fight happen. Because you can let a fight marinate for so long, it goes bad.
Now we don't want to see it.
In the meantime, I'd rather have a fight too early than a fight way too late.
So I was going to ask y'all, so we got Benavidez fighting at 175 now. Morrell, do we ever get a chance to see him in the ring with a Bivol or a Beterbiev at any point?
Benavidez?
Yeah.
Looks like a Bivol, definitely at his age, for sure.
Yeah. I would like to see a Beterbiev Benavidez showdown before Beterbiev retires, because we know we don't have that much longer in his career. There's not that many fights to be made. Let's go. Let's see the big dogs get in the ring and get to work. So excited for this fight. Rematch of the amateur days.
That's what I want.
I mean, if he can go up and
who's the Beterbiev?
Yeah. That was a amateur.
Yeah.
Beterbiev won at the amateur level of that fight. So I think
see it.
This is why I always bring up Turkey, because he will make these fights that we just dream about having and make them happen. So love the fight that Morrell is taking a step up against Benavidez. Hopefully this will lead to other big fights at that division, because the 175 weight class has struggled to keep us engaged like the lighter weight classes and heavyweights. So, I mean, and the fact that Tank will step aside and let Benavidez be the main event, I mean, it just makes sense. I mean, it's big names, big fight. Let's make it happen.
Yes.
Yeah. So, by the way, there's a fight
tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Fix that banner, but we have Tim Tszyu fighting tomorrow.
Him Tszyu.
So we
let's
get
some walkout time, man. I need to get some walkout times for this fight, because I actually don't even know where it's located at right now. If anybody does know.
Right.
That's what I was thinking, but he's relocated training camp to be here in the United States. So
Let's see.
there we go. We're going to PBC next fight. I'm excited though. I this one kind of snuck up on us. I thought he was going to have a little bit longer time.
Okay, 12 a.m. Eastern.
So that's
So wait, we need to be tuning in tonight.
Okay, Saturday 19th, time 8 p.m. Eastern, 12 a.m. UK time on Sunday. Okay.
So that'll be
main event ring walk around 12 a.m. Eastern time. Okay.
if we're 6, is that UK time?
So ET, our time is midnight basically. So
okay,
it'll be 11. It'll be 11 here in Dallas.
Okay. Iggy, where are you at?
Georgia.
Yeah, in Georgia. So you're on the East Coast time.
Yeah.
So late night for you, brother.
Yep.
Okay. I guess we put this fight out there to just say, hey, we want to make sure that we can tune in, if we can keep our eyes open and catch Tim Tszyu.
Are they fighting in Australia?
That's what it's looking like.
Different time. They're like ahead of us, so that's why they have it on the 20th over there, while we're still in the 19th because they just go ahead of us. But just talking about Tim Tszyu and his character, man.
He's a gritty individual, man.
Gritty.
He separated himself from his father too. A lot of these fighters, they live in but that's not him. He's become his own man, and he's had fantastic fights. And I'm legitimately a fan of his and appreciate the way he approaches the game. What he did even just in the past 2 years is tremendous. And I think it needs to be commended, and more fighters need to look at him in terms of how to conduct yourself as a fighter, right? You have a situation where the main guy you want to fight isn't available. Well, you go fight someone else, right? You don't sit there in the line. You just keep fighting. You keep showing that you're the best guy. And although it's risky, I think he's made 154 a great division. He's made it lit by himself.
Absolutely.
Right? He put the whole team on his back, in my opinion. Well, he's the glue that kept him going. He's the lubricant for the entire division.
Yeah, and his opponent is not no slouch. You know, Bakram is he's a current IBF. He's a current IBF.
Another Russian.
Yeah, he's not. He's not. 70, I think 72% knockout rate too. He's not no slouch. So
this will be his 23rd bout. He's coming in with 16 knockouts.
Yeah.
Oh, this fight's in the Orlando, fellas.
Oh,
this fight is in. This is Orlando under the TGB promotion. So,
Tom Brown.
Yeah, let's get it so we can catch this.
And
I'm excited.
Bakram is also undefeated, so he's 22. All wins. 72.73% knockout rate. He gets it in. So it's gonna be a good fight. Love seeing Tim Tszyu fight. Can't wait to see that fireworks. Fellas, do you want to make a prediction here, or are you keeping that close?
That's gonna be a tough fight. These Russians are not laying down for nobody. Tim Tszyu not laying down.
That's all I got to say.
That's all I got to say. That's it.
It's gonna be a good fight. All right, let's segue to our last thing that we have on our agenda here. And let me make that a scrolling banner. Let's do this.
You got
PFL Fight Week for the mixed martial arts followers. So we see Ngannou stepping back in the octagon after his try at boxing. This is going to be Ngannou's first fight, I think, after that Anthony Joshua showcase. What do you guys think? He's fighting a dangerous fighter.
Well, surprised to see him on PFL, but PFL is on the come up.
Well, they're a great promotion. I go to a bunch of their shows, up in Frisco, just a couple of minutes above where I live. And it's always a great event. So, seeing him be a part of a promotion like this, I think is a great thing. Seeing being take on competitive fights, there's nothing wrong with that. The UFC is a fantastic promotion, but they're not the only game in town. So it's cool to see other people get opportunities. Other people get.
Are they under Disney, ESPN? Is that their
Disney is owned. Disney does own ESPN, correct?
Yeah, so I think they're the ESPN Fighting League, right? Like the same way as UFC, or partners with ESPN, I believe, right?
ESPN and UFC are partnered.
Oh, maybe UFC, not PFL. For some reason, I thought PFL was also on ESPN, but
I thought the PFL was on the Zone, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on the Zone. It's on the Zone.
It's on the Zone. Okay.
Yeah. But they have a really good internet presence, because I've seen them catch a lot of PFL fighters just via YouTube, Instagram.
Yeah.
They've definitely carved out a niche that I've met guys that have been in PFL, and you watch them, and so I was just, like I said, seeing Ngannou on that promotion, I always feel like competition, amongst these organizations, breeds the best product. So the fact that you got a huge name like Ngannou fighting on something like this, I mean, that just rises everybody to the top.
Yep.
More eyeballs, more butts and seats. I'm intrigued.
I'm intrigued to ask the coaches here. What do you think of Ngannou's boxing skills? Like from the Fury fight to the Joshua fight, were you impressed? Were you underwhelmed?
Really. No, it's fine. I mean, MMA fighters fight different than boxers, in my opinion, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? Different skill set, different approach. And Ngannou did a good job in the Fury fight, but I think his chin was done to begin with. And he, had that last fight with Wilder, and his legs are gone. When it comes to the fight that he had with Joshua, I think that sort of proved and sort of separated out some of the tendencies and differences between boxing and MMA, right? The way he knocked him out was one of the things we addressed very quickly in the boxing game, right? It was a very simple setup, but, he got caught, in southpaw. He got caught looking at the wrong hand and got hit with the right hand. And he threw it with no regard for his life, and it was savage.
Yeah.
One of my favorite knockouts ever.
Yeah.
But today, that wouldn't happen that way if it was two high-level boxers fighting each other.
Right.
Because
he doesn't switch stance.
You would have gotten that out the way in amateurs.
Yeah. He was not looking out for the counter. He was not holding the telephone.
You see MMA guys, when you see guys in the gym, they like to switch stances a lot.
Yeah.
But when you switch stances, the strategy changes. The angles of the punches changes.
It's not even opposite. It's 100% different.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very different. It's very different how you stand.
Say that, okay, if I'm in orthodox, then if I flip it in southpaw, then this concept should still work. It doesn't work.
Right.
Yeah.
Because
that was a terrible mistake.
Like in MMA, you have to defend yourself from leg kicks or checking leg kicks. It's gonna mess you. Boxers shell a lot. Their stance is like they have their own stance. So, and you can see what style of fighter is in boxing. But MMA, if you stand any type of way, it depends on you fighting a wrestler who wants to shoot and just sweep you off your feet. Yeah. So they switch a lot of how they stand a lot. They don't make themselves like. I remember my boxing trainer used to say, "Hey, I want you to be a pencil, not a paper."
Yeah.
Make yourself like, But if you do that, right. If you're a paper, you're more target, right? Pencil and then tuck in. And whenever you don't tuck in, he hits you, right? In MMA, it's a little different.
Hey, I like the visual though.
If you're a pencil, man, they working that leg, that front leg, they're working that cuff. They're kicking that cuff. So if you're like over paper, it's even better to even protect yourself from a takedown. And it's easy. You add more weight on somebody who's trying to take you down, so you could guard that. And depending on your low guards, high guards in MMA, it's different with boxing. Counter punching and defense. So I don't know why MMA fighters fall for it and go fight boxers at boxing. And you're going to get starched because boxing is a science.
Because they think they're strikers, but it's different.
Like,
boxing not the same thing.
It's not the same thing. Like, don't do it.
Money.
There's no shame in that. It's a different
at all.
Different thing.
That money talks though. That money talks in boxing.
Jake Paul knocking out these MMA fighters. Oh, duh.
Yeah.
Like we have that thing when we talk about here on this show. It's like fighting a lion in the water. The shark is gonna win. Like, or you bring a shark or crocodile on the land, the lion is gonna win. So like, why you cross? I know you think you're nice, but you're not gonna beat a boxer. You're not gonna beat a boxer in the ring. It's not gonna happen. Floyd lied to you guys with that McGregor fight. He played with McGregor, so these guys, MMA, we could go and fight boxing. No, you cannot. You cannot.
Hey, sometimes part of being an athlete is having irrational confidence.
That's important. You gotta have it. And
bro, that's what we see.
I'm happy that they can do it.
Plus a paycheck. That makes it all, oh yeah, I got this. Let's do it. So
but hey, salute to Ngannou for daring to be great and coming up short, or even being the victor, even though he lost the Fury fight. But with that being said, hopefully, his transition back to his natural fighting institute, which is mixed martial arts. Hopefully he does what Ngannou does, which is exciting knockouts. So hopefully we can see that with the guy who's fighting Ferreira. Very dangerous guy, by the way. For him to be the first fight in PFL, you fighting the boogeyman in the PFL. That's weird. But hey, I'm here for it. Take my money. Let me see how that fight goes. But with that being said, fellas, we are concluding this stream. We want to thank our guest. We'll put his ats so you could follow. Do you have a YouTube? Do you have anything else that you want to plug in?
Those are the main things. I do have a YouTube channel for Victory Boxing League and for Brave Boxing Club. You'll be able to see information about our gym and sort of the way in which we approach training, as well as see the many fights that we have. So for all of the Victory 1 fights are on there. And it's just a cool opportunity to sort of see what we're doing. If you're a fighter and interested in participating, you don't have to be from Dallas in order to fight on the card. You just have to be a good matchup for people that I'm trying to work with, because the primary focus are fighters that are in the area or in the surrounding area. But no matter what, I'll always try to make sure that it's a fair fight and that it's scheduled appropriately as best I can. So, love to work with anyone and everyone. If you want to learn more about boxing, happy to work with y'all.
Absolutely, Sarah. Thank you for joining us. Please join us again so we can talk this fight talk. That's all. I'm a casual too. I'm a MMA casual, more into the boxing, but I love MMA. I love fight talk. I like talking this like I'm talking with my friends when we have fight nights. So join in. Cam introduced me to the whole Dallas scene and his fighters. I'm like, now I'm asking, when Cam travels, please send me your live stream links. Cyrus, I'll follow you. You send me your pay-per-view for your fights. I want to follow your fighters. I want to grow with them. I want to see them, finally hit the big stage. If you get to the big stage, I want to be like, I know that dude right there.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have our fight on the 26th of October, and then I'm taking my fighter at 175, Mordecai Lunga, and he's going over to Overtime Boxing over in Atlanta to fight later on in November. I think it's the 29th, I want to say. So we're gonna be doing that. So that'll be
another Congolese fighter.
Yeah. I'm excited.
And then Iggy, you're not a social media guy like that, right? Do you have anything to plug? You want people to follow you?
But I'll definitely be following. Listen, I'll definitely be following this, man. I really enjoyed this. Like, I've heard when they talk boxing. So yes, I'm actually humbled, man, to have me here.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Yeah,
Kam G, you know how we conclude this. Kam G, in behalf of LT, who is fighting?
Who's fighting?